y'all, it's Dedra with Streamwater Farm, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 3 of Ink and Overalls. We've got another question today we're going to dive into. I want to thank everybody who's watched so far. Thank you for bearing with me as I work out kinks and I get more comfortable in front of a camera. Hopefully we'll go up from here, and nowhere but improvement from now on. But I just appreciate everybody who's liked and shared, subscribed, encouraged me, all that stuff along the way. Thank you so much, and we're just kind of getting our feet under us on this journey, and it's been fun. It's already been fun. Today we have another question to dive into. Last week we talked about homesteading skills. Today we're going to talk about community. And the question was, what role can homesteading play in building a resilient community? I love this question. Community is something that I long for, I strive for. And I feel like as homesteaders, a lot of us, we want some like-minded people to surround ourselves with, right? But it's bigger than that. Homesteading can make such a big impact on our communities, on the people around us. And that influence can be very far-reaching. And you never even know as time goes on just how many people you might be able to encourage along the way, whether it's by teaching them how to garden or providing them with something cool for their kitchen or something for their family that helps them, with their health or something. Because for example, I make salves and tinctures and things like that, and so part of what I offer to our community is an alternative to pharmaceutical meds that sometimes helps with certain things. So that's just part of what I can offer our community. And we can all offer different things as our journey continues, and as we grow and start to produce more things on our homestead, as we get to know people in our community more. There's lots of ways we can go about it. So I want to start off by talking about one thing that I really, really like to talk about, because whenever I thought about community, what immediately came to mind for me was the Victory Garden movement of World War I and World War II. Now, I don't know if you ever heard of it before. A lot of people have, but some people haven't. If you're not a history nerd like me, you may not have ever heard of it. I read lots of historical fiction books, and so I really, really hone in on those that are written from a World War II perspective. And so this is something that comes up a lot in that genre, and you do get exposed to it. And it's, the idea of a victory garden. So a victory garden, what does that even mean? So back in World War I, World War II, there was this big push from the Department of Civilian Defense in the United States. Had a big push of all this propaganda and information, encouraging people to grow food wherever they were. Now, it would be incredible if the government would do this today. Can you imagine? But the government was actually encouraging people to take control of their food system and be a part of, an active part of the food that goes on their tables. And this came from a place of the way they went about it. When they would kind of talk about this, they would say, we have to feed our men overseas, and we have more food going out than ever before to other countries. And so we have to do our part at home to make sure they get what they need, and by providing ourselves with what we need. And y'all, it was so cool. When I was researching for this, I looked at, there was a Better Homes and Gardens. It was a video that was actually made by Better Homes and Gardens in the 1940s that talked about, it was all about victory gardens, and it showed a victory garden and what it could look like and what it could mean. And then it showed all these places that people were planting these gardens, and they were growing stuff everywhere. Wherever there was a space, they were growing things. There were people who had townhouses. They were growing in their yards. They had one on the White House lawn. They had started a garden. Vacant lots, they were encouraging you, this vacant lot that's just growing weeds, turn it into a victory garden. And so this big push for this victory garden movement was huge in the United States. So much so that in a year, Americans were able to produce 40% of the produce that they ate with their families. they produce 40% of it in their backyards. And that's incredible. Like, you think about what that would mean to the food system nowadays. If, like, we went from relying on grocery stores to 40% of our food coming from our own backyards. Y'all, that's incredible. And so the thing that made this movement so successful, you've got community gardens, you've got vacant lots being turned into gardens, you have all these people, and they're, it's a buzz. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's excited about it because it provided solidarity, right? So they could all feel like they were working together toward a common goal, and that common goal was for the victory in the war, to support the war effort and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's all government, and that's, I know. But just let's look at this. Let's find the beauty in this and find it for what, look at the good stuff that came from this. So you've got people who probably during this time period, yes, there were still a lot of people living in rural areas, but there were also a lot of people who had moved into urban areas to find jobs and things like that, and had moved away from more of an agricultural mindset. And so you got all of a sudden all of this information being pushed to these people to encourage them where they are to start growing their own food. And they were given instructions, and they were showing, like, they were drawing up plans and giving out plans to show, like, how you could utilize your space and how you could succession plant, and just tons of information was coming out. And it was like, it was a movement. Everybody knew what a victory garden was. Most people had one if they could. And it was really, honestly, it ended up kind of being more of an effort it was almost something to keep people busy, I think, in a way, during that war, so they could feel like they were doing something, because it's hard to just kind of sit there. But it actually ended up making an impact on the food system, which is really, really cool. And so the Victory Gardens freed up agricultural produce, packaging, and transportation resources for the war effort, and helped offset shortages of agricultural workers. But mostly, it improved the morale of the people at home. So, once again, I'll take a side note to say, in those videos, if you watch them, they definitely push, like, new scientific advances in fertilizers and bug spray and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, we're finding the beauty in this. We're talking about community. And so you think about a community back then that would have gone from a concrete jungle type area to all of a sudden everyone looking for a place where they can grow a melon plant, or, grow lettuce or whatever, just everything. And so everybody started thinking in terms of, what can I grow where I'm at? Y'all, that's like transformational. That's exactly what we've got to do now. Because the days of, like, being able to just run out real quick and just buy you up like 40 acres and get started, it's possible for a lot of people, but for a lot of people, that's not in the cards. The future of farms and the future of gardening and homesteading is in our own backyards, y'all. It's here where we're at. So when I think of the impact, what if, like, I start a victory garden in my front yard, and then, like, my neighbor is growing something too. Well, then we would talk, and maybe her potatoes did really, really well, and my tomatoes did really, really well, and we can trade off or whatever. Or, I didn't have cabbage come in. I need some for the, to store for winter, and she needs lettuce or whatever. When you all have a common goal in mind, that brings community together. That's where you can start. It can grow from there, because you're not a stranger to those people anymore. Those people become your allies because you have a common goal in mind. And I don't know. I love the thought of that. I love to imagine people just growing food where they are. And I think that it's a great example of what an impact just gardening can make in a community, because these places, like I said, they went from nothing to these, like, oasis type places where you could actually get food. And they were actually, they produced 40% of their food, of their produce, and within a year's time. What could we do, guys? What could we do? We all, like, got our heads together. So anyway, sometimes, you're not just planted necessarily in a community full of homesteaders or full of people who are walking your journey or sharing a similar story to you. A lot of times you're going to be the one to start it. You got to, if that's what it takes, then just, you get to be the one to start it. It's not like Don't look at it as a burden. Think of it as something you get to do. You get to start this movement in your community. You get to influence others. Like one person falls in love with gardening and homesteading and then shares that excitement with someone else. And you'd be surprised the number of people you could influence just by being happy and excited to be living your life the way you're living it. Because, I mean, I've helped many friends start gardens, and it's not because like I sold them on the idea and I was like trying to actively make them or force them to do anything, but it's because we talked about it. It comes up, it's life, and they like the idea, and so then they're growing a garden. Well, then we have more to talk about, and then they may be influencing people. It's a cascade, it's a domino effect, and it starts with one person. So you can start it at home, and it'll progress outward from there. Now, I want to take just a second to talk about something, and you hear this word, you hear the term self-reliance a whole lot whenever you are dealing with homesteading. Self-reliant. I want to be self-reliant, self-sufficient, self-sustaining. But in my opinion, I think that, and I've heard other people say this is not my idea, but I really think that the concept of community efficiency, like a community that can come together and be like self-sufficient, is a bigger and better goal to have than to just worry about your place. Because the likelihood that you're going to be able to do everything without needing any help from anybody ever is very low. Okay. But if you've got a community, you've got a tree down, you need some help cutting it up, and you've got people you can call on. I mean, that's strong. There's so much strength in that. I think about when Hurricane Katrina hit, and I was living with my mom and dad, and, there were trees down everywhere, but community came together. And that was much better than what we could have done on our own, was the community helping to cut the trees out the road. It took a village, literally. And there's so much strength in that, and we've lost that. We've lost that so much. And I think we began losing it like early 1900, late 19th century, early 20th century. We kind of began to fall away from that whole village aspect. And I think Victory Gardens gave us a little glimpse into what that actually could be, like kind of a reminder. And it's been a while since that, so I think we need another revolution, guys. I think we all need to plant a Victory Garden. Anyway, if you're lucky enough to live in a community where there's a thriving farmer's market, obviously that's a great place to start. You go in there, you start talking to vendors, or you become a vendor. You get to know your community. You get to know what everybody's growing, what everybody's doing. And it's just a great place just to spend time with other people in your community. I mean, I think a farmer's market has the potential to really carry a community into a whole different level of self-sustainability. I think because you know who to call on. You know who's got chickens. You know who's raising dairy goats. You know who's making soap. Because if you've got a farmer's market that's consistent, and you've got these people there, and you can take your family and you can go and enjoy yourself, that sets you up for success as far as having a self-reliant, like a community that is sustaining itself. So if you don't have a farmer's market, you may have one close by, several communities over, but if we're talking about like your local kind of reach at this moment, and you don't have that, then you can look into selling goods at community events where you can just talk to more people that way. Try to be active and use your social media. I don't have very many followers by anybody's standards, but the people that do follow me, a lot of them are more local. I have people from all over, but I love it when I see my local people, sharing and liking and kind of being in my corner, because that's community, and that's really, really cool thing to see. I have a talk coming up. I'm going to a local like learning center school type thing, and I'm going to give a demonstration on worm composting and teach them how to take care of a worm farm and how it can be used in the garden. And that is going to take a day of my time and, a little bit of prep work. And, the school is a little bit far out, but it's still, I consider it's within our radius as a community. But I go there, I talk to those people. Well, then I'm teaching a new generation something. And then, they'll tell their parents, and then they'll go from there. If you're going to have worms composting for you, you're going to need a garden or something to put it on, right? I mean, it's like give a mouse a cookie, give a kid a worm, they're going to need a garden to go with it. So anyway, that's, something that you can do. If it's left up to you and you don't feel like you have, the community that you want, try to make it happen. And by stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things that you're equipped to do. Last year I hosted a worm class on my farm. I will likely host a seed starting class in the future. The relationships you build through that help you build community. People know they can look, they know where to find you. They know what your goals are. And a lot of times it gets them thinking about themselves and where they're at and what they want to see happen. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's a domino effect. It's a cascade effect. So we've talked about more of the local type radius thing, but now I want to talk about community in a further. Let's put our tentacles out into the world a little bit further. With social media the way it is, I look to that for community at times as well. A couple of years ago, I was super. We were gifted some tickets to the Homestead Festival in Tennessee. At what's the name of it? It is Rory Feek's farm. We went there for a weekend and we had so much fun. I won the tickets from a friend of mine. She's a friend now because I met her through that with Hey It's a Good Life. Natalie with Hey It's Good Life was giving away tickets. So we got the tickets and we were able to go. And y'all, I met people there. I met a lot of people. And I now I know people from California all the way down to Florida that are homesteaders. And so I consider those people my community, even though I wish I could invite them over, for dinner one night and we could hang out or we could work in our gardens together. That's what you long for. That's what you strive for. And you just desire. I do anyway. I would love to have, that friend that comes over and just sits in your garden with you. And I do have that, but you long for that, but don't forget that sometimes, especially since we have the gift of technology, use it for something good. And think of it as the opportunity to build your community in a further reaching radius. Okay. Technology is not always bad. You can join and you can look into, look to Instagram, look to YouTube and those types of places. And even if you don't know those people personally, they can still feel like community because they're going to go through some of the things you go through. And you're going to start to feel like you're a part of their story too. This is important, y'all. This is important. Whenever you do get to know people and you start to build community, do not expect everyone to be the same as you. Diversity in the homesteading community can be a large part of what makes it valuable and what makes it interesting and what makes it thrive. So, we don't need everybody doing things the way we're doing them. They don't have to look the way we do. They don't have to even believe the way we do for them to have room at our table. We need to love people and we need to put boots on the ground and be the community. And as the community comes to us, we don't need to pick and choose who gets to be a part of it because we can all learn from each other. Another random thing I'm going to tell you real quick as far as building community, y'all, is okay. So we have an Azure Standard drop in our town. So Azure Standard is kind of like a grocery co-op type thing, and once a month you can order, and they bring this big truck comes, and you unload it, and you take your stuff home. But what I have found is that several people who participate in that are often homesteading or in the mindset of living a more sustainable life because this particular company sells organics, bulk food, dry goods, non-GMO. And so what you end up getting are people who are really being intentional about living a more sustainable lifestyle, or even people who are homesteading or doing both. So you can make connections that way. Your local drop usually has a Facebook page where you can talk to people and get to know people. I've even heard of some drops that do little seed swaps in the spring and different things like that. So it may sound a little crazy, y'all, but honestly, it's a good opportunity to get to know some people, and it can really, you can see some people you never really see around at your local Azure drop and be like, hey, what y'all doing? You know, I mean, we got people with dairy cows and all sorts of things at ours, and it's just really cool to be in that. You know, it's a quick thing. You unload a truck, but you know, in the process, you talk to one another about when the truck's getting there, when the order goes in, and then you can make connections that way. And bam, community. Sometimes you have to be the one to start. That's the big thing I'm talking about today. Is sometimes it starts with you. It has to start with you. I wish we all had thriving communities just brimming with like-minded homesteaders, but unfortunately, that's not in the cards for most of us, and that's okay. It's find the beauty where we're at and use it for, you know, use what we have and grow what we have and watch it turn into something awesome. So do the dang thing and don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because if you stay comfortable, your chances of reaching out to others really decrease significantly. And I'm speaking from experience. Hosting a worm class at my house was not something I was 100% comfortable with, but it was something I felt like I wanted and needed to do. Hosting this podcast is not something that I am naturally inclined or comfortable to doing, but I felt like it was something I was supposed to do, and I'm trying to build community, and I want to reach out to others. I want to teach what I know. I want to learn more, and you can't do that from inside your comfort zone, guys. You just can't. And you know, I'm preaching to really, like, it's me. Hi, I'm the one. It's me. Because I understand. I get it. If there's a comfort zone, trust me, I've had it, and I put a blanket there and a book, and I want to stay there. But that's just not how we form bonds and relationships, and how we create community. Because I think a lot of times it is really something created. You have to make it, because it's just not something that everybody prioritizes nowadays. So don't let a lack of knowledge or the fear that you lack some sort of necessary knowledge stop you. Learn as you go, stay humble, and teach what you can. So in closing, I just want you to know that community is possible. It may not always look the way that you think it should look. It may not look like an Instagram post. It may not look like a well-organized blog post or anything like that. But, you know, maybe it's a few friends finding a vacant lot in town and making a community garden. Or, you know, maybe you have a community where there's already a thriving farmer's market, and you show up and you get to know those people. And before you know it, it's happened. You've got community there. So don't be afraid to be the one to make it happen. Take initiative. Don't be scared. Step out and do what you can do. It's going to be fine. So I appreciate you so much for listening, tuning in, all the things. You can find me on YouTube on Wednesdays at Wally Media Group, and I post audio to podcast platforms on Sundays. I would love to see you there, I guess I could say. But I would love for you to tune in and like, subscribe, share, comment, all the things. You can find me on social media at Instagram. I'm Streamwater Farm, and on Facebook also. I have a TikTok. It's not that active, but I'm working on it. So if you're on TikTok, follow me there too. And my website is inkanoveralls.com. You can go there for merch. You can sign up for a newsletter at the bottom, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up there for future newsletters. And you can also link to my shop there, where I sell my salves, soaps, tinctures, shampoo bars, and things like that I make here. And I guess that's all I got to say. So until next time, I hope you find the beauty wherever you're at, wherever you are, and that you'll have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.